Good day, and welcome to another episode of Agent X11, Hollywood Dark Journalist. Another light in this darkened world. I am your host, Penny L.A. Shepherd, and I am Agent X11. My co-hosts are David Zublik, Heather Day, Joan Renee, Chris Montgomery, Skip Press, Tom Althouse, Jessica Garza, Edward Battalion, Dr. Keith Abloh, and TJ Ward.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We are tonight's entertainment.
Agent X11, Hollywood Dark Journalist, begins now. And welcome to another episode of Agent X11, Hollywood Dark Journalist. My name is Penny L.A. Shepherd. I'm going to turn on the headlights here so everybody can see who is talking. And I am Agent X11. I am joined by my co-hosts, and this is Brian Presents. So I'll put him in the middle there. And my co-host, Brian Singh, Joan Renee, and Ryan Bowden. We have the two Brians here. So if you check, you have to do the check across the way. And then we have our guests, and this is their segment also, Steven Sanchez, a NASA rocket scientist and a literal rock star. and Dr. Weeping You, and apparently Stephen is somewhat trapped in California. I know what that feels like. And headed towards the NAMM show, which I haven't been in the NAMM show in like 50 years. This segment is Dr. U's Universe, and we're going to be talking today about the power of the mind in the first half hour. And what is wrong with quantum theory? So here we go with Dr. U's Universe. If you don't have your dancing shoes on or you have a sad face, well, this should make you happy.
Woo, ooh, it's Dr. U. Woo, ooh, it's Dr. U. Woo, ooh, it's Dr. U. Dr. U's Universe. Yeah. Spin on a cosmic ride. No up, no down, no left, no right. Dr. U's got stars in sight. We welcome you to Dr. U's Universe, where planets sing that you thought you'd find. Get ready to adjust your mind. Forget all that you have read. Get maximum room, make space in your head. Welcome to Doctor Universe, where time does not exist. Listen to Doctor You. He's phoning in from Earth number 2. Yeah, he's calling from the cosmos just for you. It's Doctor You. It's Doctor You. It's Doctor You. Doctor You's universe. Doctor You's universe.
And we are back. And that's going to be for sure a show somewhere, like a legit show. We're going to put you on Netflix or whatever.
You guys got moves, so it's good.
And I am very privileged to host Brian Singh, as known as SolarBee. He's got Brian. Why don't you tell people about your organization?
Well, basically, we, as a community of experiencers and targeted individuals, people who have been abducted by the militaries of various groups, realize that the only way we're going to get access to technologies and science, like relative to this segment, is if we have full disclosure of the fact that all of this exists in the first place. And ever since, especially World War II, and I believe it was the 1951 Military Secrets Act, any advanced technology that could be disruptive to the economy, our government is able to suppress the inventor and the technology. And I mean, that's just one example. And so, with that, an understanding of technologies that are being hidden from us and that we're told don't exist, will also come a better understanding of the science, the physics behind all of it, the advanced medicine for things like medical beds and whatnot.
Well, I'm privileged to be your friend. I've known you many years now. You're an incredible individual, and as I said, I'm very thankful that we're on this show every week, every Thursday. However, next Thursday we will be off, but we will be back for the following Thursday. So Awake Nation and Agent X11 will be off air. Will be on. Agent X11 will be on tomorrow, but Awake Nation will not. And then the following week, which is January 26th through February 3rd, we are off of the Awake Nation and Agent X11. So just wanted to put that in there. Now, we've kind of split the segments up between Steven Sanchez and Dr. Yu. And Steven has sent me something which is very important, and it follows along what Brian Singh just said. So I'm going to play part of this video, and stop me if you have any questions or statements at any time.
In 1973, CIA Director Richard Helms ordered the destruction of all MK Ultra documents. What survived was supposed to be random paperwork, routine administrative files that escaped the flames. But buried in those fragments was a single classified memo that would change everything we thought we knew about the program. The memo wasn't about drug experiments or mind control torture. It was about the CIA's most successful discovery: Tibetan consciousness-altering artifacts that could enhance psychic abilities without any chemicals at all. A handwritten note in the margin revealed why MK Ultra was really shut down. Test subjects wearing ancient stone malas have developed abilities we cannot control or contain. Dr. Rachel Sterling had built her career studying trauma and consciousness, but it wasn't academic interest that drove her obsession with MK Ultra research. It was her own family history. Her grandfather, Army Colonel William Sterling, had died in 1976 with secrets he never shared. Only after his death did Rachel discover his involvement in classified psychological warfare programs during the Cold War. His personal effects contained strange references to Tibetan artifacts and consciousness enhancement protocols that made no sense until the MK Ultra documents were declassified. At 49, despite years of meditation practice and consciousness work, Rachel felt like she was hitting a wall in her own spiritual development. When she began piecing together her grandfather's notes with the surviving MK Ultra files, she realized his work had led to discoveries that were far more advanced than anyone imagined. Rachel's research brought her into contact with Dr. Sidney Gottlieb's former assistant, Dr. Martin Orne, one of the few surviving researchers from the program's final phases. What Dr. Orne revealed would shatter everything Rachel thought she knew about MK Ultra's true purpose. The drug experiments were just cover, Dr. Orne explained during their private meeting. By 1968, we had discovered something far more powerful than LSD or any chemical compound. A Tibetan monk named Lobsang Tenzin had approached the agency with artifacts that could systematically enhance human consciousness without any substances at all. Dr. Orne showed Rachel classified photographs from 1969, test subjects wearing what appeared to be simple blue stone necklaces, their EEG readings showing brainwave patterns that defied conventional neuroscience. The monk claimed these meditation malas contained specific mineral combinations that could activate dormant regions of the brain. Dr. Orne continued, "Within weeks, our test subjects were demonstrating remote viewing accuracy rates above 90%, telepathic communication across vast distances, and precognitive abilities that were absolutely unprecedented." Rachel stared at the classified data in disbelief. The subjects weren't just demonstrating enhanced psychic abilities. They were accessing information that posed a direct threat to national security. The malas seemed to activate what the Tibetan texts called the third eye chakra, Dr. Orne explained. But the consciousness expansion was so profound that subjects began perceiving classified operations, reading the thoughts of their handlers, and even accessing future intelligence scenarios that hadn't been planned yet. The program's most successful subject, identified only as Subject 17, had worn a lapis lazuli mala for 6 months during 1972. His abilities became so enhanced that he could accurately describe classified Soviet installations he'd never seen, predict military movements weeks in advance, and even access the contents of sealed documents in Washington from a facility in Nevada. But here's what terrified the CIA leadership. Subject 17 began using his abilities to investigate the agency itself. He started exposing classified operations to other test subjects, revealing the true scope of government surveillance programs and accessing information that could have brought down entire intelligence networks. By December 1972, the decision was made. The program had become too dangerous to continue. Dr. Orne revealed something that would change Rachel's understanding of consciousness itself. The monk Lobsang Tenzin hadn't just provided artifacts. He had shared the complete scientific understanding behind their function. Lapis lazuli contains 3 distinct minerals that work in sequence to unlock human potential, the monk had explained to CIA researchers. Sodalite clears mental interference that blocks extrasensory perception. Lazurite raises consciousness to frequencies where psychic information becomes naturally accessible. Pyrite creates permanent neural pathways that maintain enhanced awareness even without continued practice. The CIA had inadvertently discovered that human consciousness could be systematically expanded using ancient mineral technologies that were thousands of years ahead of Western science. Dr. Orne looked directly at Rachel. Before the program was shut down, a small group of us preserved the monk's instructions. We knew this knowledge was too important to destroy completely. Rachel felt her hands trembling as Dr. Orne showed her a perfectly preserved lapis lazuli mala. 108 beads, arranged according to the exact specifications that had created Subject 17's extraordinary abilities. Your grandfather was part of the preservation group, Dr. Orne revealed. This belonged to him. Within 3 weeks of daily meditation with her grandfather's mala, Rachel experienced consciousness shifts that validated everything in the classified files. The change was unlike anything I'd encountered in 20 years of consciousness research, she recalls. My intuitive abilities didn't just improve, they exploded into capabilities I hadn't imagined possible. During meditation, I could access information streams that seemed to come from beyond ordinary awareness. But the real transformation was professional. Rachel's understanding of trauma and healing deepened dramatically. She could sense her patients' underlying issues before they spoke, understand complex psychological patterns with startling clarity, and access therapeutic insights that transcended her academic training. Within 2 months, Rachel's colleagues began noticing her uncanny ability to predict patient outcomes, understand family dynamics with minimal information, and facilitate breakthroughs that typically took years of conventional therapy. The abilities that had made Subject 17 too dangerous for the CIA to control were now enhancing Rachel's capacity to heal and serve others. Since Rachel documented her experience, over 3,000 individuals have reported similar consciousness expansion through authentic CIA-grade lapis lazuli malas. Former military intelligence officer Michael Rodriguez describes developing remote viewing abilities that surpassed his classified training. Business strategist Jennifer Walsh reports accessing market insights and competitive intelligence through pure intuition. Therapist David Kim discovered his empathic abilities, expanding to levels that revolutionized his practice. Most remarkably, many report that the consciousness expansion feels completely natural and integrated, unlike the overwhelming experiences that drove some MK Ultra subjects to breakdown. The gradual activation process allows for stable, sustainable enhancement of human potential. The spiritual artifacts company Karma Items has been working directly with descendants of the original preservation group to source authentic lapis lazuli using the exact mineral specifications documented in the classified files. Each mala contains the precise combination of sodalite, lazurite, and pyrite that created the consciousness breakthroughs the CIA discovered but couldn't control. But there's an urgent reality that Dr. Orne's research revealed. The specific Tibetan mines that provided the consciousness-enhancing stones for the original MK Ultra experiments have been systematically depleted over the past 50 years. The exact mineral combinations that created Subject 17's extraordinary abilities
Can I
are
jump in
becoming
here, Penny?
increasingly rare. The government may have destroyed the documents,
Okay.
So what I'm getting from this is it's a mixture of truth and AI for very
Yes.
clever marketing, but there is a lot of truth in it, and then misdirection. For example, they're doing a great job selling lapis lazuli, malas or necklaces. And having said that, consistently when you look up gemstones or stones that are people, who practice psychic abilities or magic, consistently up there is amethyst, quartz, and lapis is up there as well. And lapis is known to be associated with a third eye. Brian Bowden's got his mala right there. Um, but to say that MK Ultra was ended, or the
Nope, it was
CIA
not.
had a test subject number 17 who was just too dangerous. No, that's not how it works. They want you to be as dangerous as possible, and then they want to make more of you, and then figure out how to make you more dangerous on top of that. The idea that there's like this exact combination from the exact right mine or whatever of like soda, to do the exact right lapis is kind of over the top and ridiculous. But in the programs, there are people who apparently, when we have our abilities unlocked, are incredibly powerful, and that's the whole point. Um, you know, there are people in our community like Chris Laterre, French Canadian, who has very distinct recall of being in the Montauk Project, being strapped into the Montauk trip chair. One of the things he remembers is as Preston Nichols would strap him into the chair sometimes, he'd also put like a wig, like a little net wig with like electrodes coming out of it.
Oh God.
And then he'd also, one time at least, he had put a mask on him with blue lotus flower in it. And he was explaining to him, and the other children, that blue lotus flower is known to enhance psychic ability, psychic power.
Huh.
And so, the idea that, we can use these tools in the physical to help us, in our spiritual or psychic travels or experiences makes a lot of sense. I will say that. But then having said that, this is a very cleverly incorporated mix of truth and fiction. Like I looked up Rachel Sterling and specifically the CIA and Malas and Lapis. The CIA apparently has noted Lapis because it's in that region of Afghanistan, which is very much the Taliban territory, where they were first using them as a proxy against the Russians, the Soviets, during the 1970s, especially, and 80s.
I mean, we have a Buddhist monastery up in upstate New York, and you can go there and get a lot of these things in their gift shop. Lapis is one of them. Something else I would say, if you really wanted to open up, one, to protect you, but also open up your third eye and your consciousness, you got to get a little shungite that blocks EMF, and don't wear it when you go to sleep, and don't put it in the same room you go to sleep, because you won't go to sleep. That's how powerful the stone is. But it does help to block out anything that would interfere with you, which is something Brian Singh can, and everybody part of his organization can tell you, that they're using multiple wavelengths to block you and get you calcified so you can't focus. I do remote viewing. I'm pretty accurate with it. I've done it for a year. I've opened up other abilities as well. And I'll tell you, when we had the COVID event, something was going on where people were being blocked. A lot of people were being blocked. And the ones that I mean, that was a really big test for me on people's abilities, because the people I had a whole slew of people that I felt had abilities, and a couple of them were like, no, I'm not having a problem. And I'm like, okay, you may be full of it, because the larger percentage were having a problem, and it felt like we were being targeted purposely, so we could not look into what was going on.
I know one of the things that I thought about was the distancing, where you had to, like, people were like doing the elbow thing, or they had to be a certain distance from one another. And I thought, they're doing this because when I shake people's hands, I can tell things about them. And I was thinking they're doing this to block our abilities.
The human body is an electric circuit. It's a computer, and we all have a unique electronic identifier number, just like our cell phones. So the reason why the 6 feet is they couldn't discern who's who. You were too close. So 6 feet was the minimum distance you had to be, so they can say, that's Penny, that's Brian, that's Steven. That's why they want you 6 feet. They can target you. So, it's this is part of your aura, your energy, and it gets into a real deeper consciousness type of thing. But I'll shut up now.
Yes. Now this is what Steven sent me, and I want to let people know
Yeah.
we're going to change. We're going to add an extra half hour onto this, onto Brian Singh's Presents, to give it a little bit more time for us to elucidate some of these premises that we're bringing forward. Steven, why did you bring that? Why did you send that to me?
Well, it was interesting because of the whole subject of lapis. So, that was like Brian said, that was a big hard sell to buy lapis and all that kind of stuff. It's not just the lapis. It's also got to do with the disciplines of the practice, because I've the Vajrayana versions of the Tibetan tradition, especially the wrathful practices like Vajrakalaya, Dorje Drolo, Yamantaka, all those higher level esoteric practices, which you really got to know monks and got to be hanging out a monastery to actually go into the advanced esoteric levels of those kinds of practices, which end up waking up your days and special abilities. I've also trained under a Wudang master Taoist who actually told me I should get a lapis mala, and they're related. You have to have the practices, and to develop the practices, do the cultivation to wake up what they would call those abilities. The mala I have right here, this has over 500,000 mantras on it in itself, but this is just one practice. This one's made out of was made out of lotus seed, but this one here is mahogany obsidian. And the thing is, I do have a lapis mala. I have actually two of them, and I use them for two different other Vajrayana practices. And yes, it does things. But again, it's hard to explain because this is not a mind thing. This is an awareness thing. Even most of your mantras be translated in what we would call a human explanation of what it does. They just by definition have been doing it so long, they just know it actually does these things. They're waking up your nadis and your clarity of mind just by practice. But guess what? You're not going to know until you do the practice. The vocalizations, it's all vibration and energy. It changes things in you that you basically, from our perspective and coherence and mind, can't explain. It's very experiential. When I was doing the Vajrakalaya practice, when I hit around 40,000, my whole world's changed. Literally, I'm not the same person. And even my Taoist teacher said, what are you doing? And then he informed me what to do. Go buy the mala, get these specific practices and teachings, because he's actually now he's a tuku, and he's also been recognized as a oh God, what's his title? He is now a Mahasiddhi and is recognized in Tibet. He's a pretty awakened, realized individual. And
Yeah. Steve, can I throw my 2 cents in here on and especially on the lapis? Because what I was getting from this, and I've heard this before, that not all lapis is the same.
Yep.
And they were talking about the combination of elements within that particular lapis and the percentage of it in the lapis that actually where they got the most enhancement. And that's what they were using for these experiments. But you can go buy lapis for $10 or $10 to $20. And it's lapis lazuli, but it's not going to necessarily be the same combination. So you may not get the same results.
Right.
Although you're going to get a little something. If it's weak in those elements, you might just get a little something, but you're not going to get the dramatic effects that the CIA had when they used it for their subjects. And I think that's what we're looking at. I have a lapis lazuli necklace I bought like 3.5 decades ago.
Yeah,
that's actually probably better and more pure than what they're selling on this site, because before the government kind of interfered in things directly. I mean, they're not hiding, and they're not going behind the shadows. There's no Wizard of Oz here. They're coming right out and doing what they're doing. So if you had something 30 years ago, they didn't think it was on the radar, and it's unbeknownst to you that you bought it, but that probably has properties in it that far exceed anything they sell today.
Yeah.
This is the problem with this stuff. A lot of people buy on Amazon, and a lot of this stuff is garbage, kind of re-imaged out of China, and it's all a marketing scheme to sell. What are we going to do with 17 tons of this rock? Well, we'll make some mystical, thing out of it with a little hints and truths. It's called faction. That's what they do. But it does work. I will tell you, I've had lapis my entire life. My dad loved the stone. So it's wonderful. But every one of these stones and these crystals, there are huge benefits to them. It's just figuring it out. Go get a crystal encyclopedia, and you'll understand where these things come into play. Or if you do what Stephen does, and if you want to be guided through people that are very versed and trained in these disciplines, they will get you there. But there's no instantaneous thing.
Yeah. Not only that, it's so coincidence that you're talking about this, because when I drove here, I stopped in Quartzsite and I was looking for some lapis, and they said, "Oh, we don't have it." Now, the thing is, if you're looking for real lapis, yes, it's really hard to find really good high-grade lapis, and especially beads. I mean, if you were going to make an average mala with the average beads, you're talking about $100 for real good stuff. They didn't think they had it, and I'm walking around and I was looking at their bench on lapis, and there was a big bag, a 5-pound bag of lapis beads hidden down on the shelf. So I said, "Hey, can I have some of this?" And I bought 2 pounds of that stuff because I knew what it was. But how ironic we're talking about this. I can say this is a Taoist thing. If you can find a piece of lapis about the size of the palm of your hand, kind of like a flat stone, and good stuff, put it underneath your pillow. Now, I don't know if anybody believes into the Gnostic system of the archons and stuff and all that crazy stuff, but it will literally block that energy out of your body if you put it underneath your pillow, so they can't tap into you when you're sleeping.
Brian, where did you get that little piece that you were showing us?
With this?
No, this piece. No, this is a mantis head, kind of carved out of lapis.
Oh wow, that's cool.
Oh wow.
Positive mantis beings. I'm forgetting the name of the gentleman, Tony, who makes them. Tony Gazi, Gazi. You can find him online. Toni Gazi, Gazi, and he connects a lot with like mantis beings, for example. Our friend Christopher S. Jacobs and Joanna Michaels. When they're a couple, they're with thelifting.net, and when he does a lot of his trance channeling, he'll utilize various like a rose, might be rose quartz or just crystal quartz, like a crystal ball type thing, and other objects to help him lock in the signal and communicate better with the different beings and entities that he's psychically or telepathically communicating with.
Another thing you can get is for your health related, and it's a good thing because it cleanses and clears all these other stones and crystals. You can get selenite. I mean, you could buy it by the pound. It's so inexpensive. Put it out in the moonlight. There's going to be a new moon. Don't get it wet. It will, fall apart.
Oh, wow.
But you could also put sage, like blow some, burn some sage, smudge stick, put it in that, and then it's cleared. I carry this with me 24/7 in different forms, and I've actually used it. My aunt wasn't feeling well, and I said, just sit there. And I took my stone and I kind of put it just off her back and going up and down. And she's like, "Ooh, what are you doing? It feels better." It's a healing stone. It also cleans.
What is it made of? What is it again?
Selenite.
Selenite. Does it have salt in it?
I'm not really versed on all the genetic lines of the different crystals. I'm sure Brian's going to find out right now.
Right. I can hear him clicking on the keyboard.
It may be a distant relative to salt, but it's always been as a positive, and salt would be as well, or a protector.
I've got it right here. It's a crystalline form of the mineral gypsum. composed of calcium sulfate dihydrate. This means it consists of calcium, sulfur, oxygen, and 2 water molecules bound within its crystal structure. The presence of water is crucial. It contributes to selenite's softness. It's only got a Mohs hardness scale of 2.
Yeah.
Transparency, and vitreous or pearly luster. Despite its name, selenite contains no selenium. The name derives from the Greek word selene, meaning moon, due to its soft, glowing appearance resembling moonlight. And then probably, Brian, that's why if you add water, put water on it, it will crumble away.
It's it's really, if you get sweat, you're going to need another one. A lot of times if you carry them with you, some people do this. I had a piece of selenite and it cracked. Now you ask one person, they said, "Oh, you were under attack," and the selenite, it took the hit for you. And other people will say it did its job, move on. But whenever you have a stone that falls out, it gets damaged or whatever it is, don't throw it out. Go to your backyard, dig a little bit of hole, and bring it back to nature. But get a new one, because something that's broken, you don't want. You want something that a whole piece, and it works out well. It looks like Dr. Yu has like a block of it in his hands right now, which kind of reminded me way back when my grandmother had a quartz broiler with at least a 2-inch thick rectangle of quartz that would heat up, and she would broil food with it, which was great.
Amazing. And Dr. Yu, what are your thoughts on this before we go to your segment? What are your thoughts on what you've just seen?
I believe that's true. Just like Brian Bowden mentioned about it. He used it and still benefit. From a physics perspective, I would think about how crystal can expand in consciousness. So that's what I feel is interesting. If you consider normal human brain only use probably 10% of capacity, because people concentrated by work, family, or something, they only use a very, very small portion of a brain, for daily functions. What happens to the 90% of other things? In sleeping mode, or even because of loss of a battery, so lost the power, so they may not even functioning. So what I'm thinking about, why we crystal can do, the reason about the crystal is purely structure, is a purely structure, the same identical structure, and it can produce precisely specific frequency. That frequency, that's what like a battery charge. We all based on a certain frequency charging battery. That's the frequency can charging your brain, the cell you not normally use. I just came out because of this fantastic video. Okay, so I thought, wow, that's how you charging them. So now they start to activate, so they can perceive 90% that you never routinely access. Jewel, you are smiling. So
I know, because when you're saying that, it goes along with your theory about the the ooons.
Yes,
it fits with the ooons, because we're all, each one of these stones has this particular vibration. It also has a particular conducting ability. And the sodalite that Brian was talking about apparently harmonizes with the vibration of humans and brings us back into alignment, like taking out the static, which would remove the pain, right?
Exactly. That's how it's in fact. Brian just mentioned, I bought this one. No, actually, I was given as a gift. I do not see if you can see the word.
Oh, can't see the crystal blanket?
Yeah, crystal blanket. So they, I met this gentleman. Actually, Stephen probably shouldn't met him at the Tesla Tech conference. So this gentleman and gave his demo the piece. The last they gave me as a gift. There's a 17 different type of crystals, and he said that this is a health effect. So now I will think about it, exactly what you guys mentioned about it. So lapis, put that one. And especially this 100 108 different type of labs. So that means as they have at least 108 different type of frequencies. So that each tuning differently. So that gonna activate your unused so-called activate more than just like a battery charge. Yeah, use that frequency charging you. You started activating, and then you started to have you have electricity. Now you can function. So basically, so I thought, wow, this is a very fantastic segment. So now I get this blanket.
Now you're going to try it.
Should I use it now? Something that's very important when you get into the world of the paranormal, which a lot of this does fall into, and cryptids and aliens and interactions. Usually you have an interaction with something that shouldn't exist because they tell you it shouldn't, but there it is right in front of you. And one of the things that is plentiful where these interactions are, where a lot of these ley lines are, where a lot of these energy points is quartz. And we all know that we've been using quartz as a battery for watches and some other things, but you can also use quartz as a hard drive. So again, if you surround yourself or you're surrounded by quartz, it is the energy, it's pulling and storing the energy that's free in the earth. And then these beings come over, and the Yuans use some of that free energy to charge itself and then shoot, and be able to manifest or react. So it's really important how, I always ask the question, when you had this experience, did you see anything, with quartz in it, pink, rose, whatever? There he goes. I know you're going to have that. There's tons of different crystals you can have. And I believe, they talk about the quartz crystal skulls. Now, some of which I think Brian would agree with me are a little bit bogus. People are, again, trying to make money off of something, and others are legit. And people are having interactions, and these things are talking to them, because even though we don't have it here, they could be storing an interactive medium that we have yet to get to, AI or true intelligence, and you can have a dialogue with these things. So it's just very interesting how it works in our world versus the 4D, the 5D, and then surrounding entities that come here.
I'm tempted to go run and get my crystal. It's sitting on the fireplace. But
I'm the only one with no crystal.
There you go. Well,
I'll send you.
I've been told in science that the crystal formation is the first sign that they look at for life. Now, am I off on that? Because I didn't pay a whole lot of attention in science, unfortunately. But they look for the crystalline structure, and that's the first indication that there's life, because without that structure, you don't have life.
You are not off. Yeah.
Is that true?
Well, think about it. Crystal has a structure, right? A structure of a quartz is quite different than like the structure of a diamond or ruby or other mineral. But our whole body is structured of minerals and compositions. How interesting, we're in this also big sea of what? Oxygen and hydrogen or water. Most of us are water. And again, it's the tuning fork thing. I mean, you're talking crystals and quartz. How interesting lapis does what it does. It could be the combination. It's probably syncing a specific frequency of vibration. Being in the proximity, you set yourself in motion. And Doctor, you knows this, and I know this. Everything is moving all the time. But if you're around, could you imagine walking into a room that all the walls were completely surfaced in lapis? I mean, it would be probably an interesting experience.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, case in point, that right here in Sedona, they got these big rooms. They got Tibetan salt completely lining them. I don't know if you ever walked in a salt room. It's an experience. It's hard to explain.
It's great, man. It makes you feel better too.
Yeah, it just completely puts you in a state of being instantly, without question. But so there's that vibration thing. Now I know this from doing all my shaman work. You always clean your crystals, do that kind of thing, but you keep it around you when you're healthy. Why? because it'll start phase locking with memory of your healthy state. So then you put it away and you keep it in a safe place that when you're sick, pull out that crystal and it'll help phase lock you back into health. It's a pretty cool effect, and it does work.
It's interesting. Whenever I go for physical, for the doctor, they always want to weigh you, and I'm like, I got to take my pants off, and they think you're being like, why? I'm like, I got rocks in my pocket, and they're laughing, and I'm like, no, I got rocks, and I start taking it out. They're like, oh my god. It's a I have probably at least a good 5-10 pounds worth of stones that I used to carry a crystal skull with me. His name's Scully.
Oh Lord.
I put it away. There's certain other things. I'm kind of pulling back from too many crystals and rocks.
Right.
It's just weighing
Go
you
out
down.
to eat and you put the crystal skull on your table.
Yeah, well, as long as you're not talking to it, it's fine. But to get back to what Joan was saying about the crystals, we live in a carbon-based society, as seen in 1977 with the message that was sent out. The reply comes back, and this is where we differ. Comes back with a triple helix, and it's more silicone based. So there are certain tells to say what we consider life versus now we know there's silicone based life. So it's important to determine what we're dealing with.
Yep.
So, and I got another question, and this one is for Stephen, because you said you need to clean your crystals. So people that don't know what you're talking about are going to take it to the sink and wash it with Dawn and water. I'm pretty sure you're not talking about that. So how do you do it?
Yeah, well, there's several different ways, and different cultures do different things. Sometimes you can put it. I like using natural spring, running water. Put the stone and or even sacred objects, like I wear this thing called a tole, and you should put this and face up, the shiny part up in the water at full moonlight. Full moonlight has a different energy than sunlight, and you leave it there to clear it. Another one is you using salt. But why would you use a table salt? Because it's not exactly the best salt on the planet. I would use really good Norwegian or something that's very, very rich, naturally mineral based of the earth, that kind of thing. And again, it comes down to it. Intention is vibration. You got to have the intentions involved in there too. And you wouldn't put it in a river that's right next to a reclamation plant or that has affluence and stuff like that. You got to consider where you're putting it, and that even the energies of people. You want to put it in a place that's respectful and all that kind of thing. So, and not only that, most people will just go out and buy something and think of where it's at. No, Brian would just say, you will know when you got the right rock. When you're looking for it, it will call you, and it's a resonance thing. It's a resonance thing. You will know. Matter of fact, when I went and bought that lapis, this bag was, big as a big sugar bag. I hand picked out the 2 pounds because that's an energy thing. You got to do it that way.
There's a feeling to it. I can't describe the feeling, but it works.
I'm gonna switch gears right now. So let's go to I like to get two different aspects, but then we're connecting with what is wrong with quantum theory. We've explored the crystal aspects, and Dr. Weeping, can you enlighten us as to what is wrong with quantum theory? And we've got about 40 minutes.
Oh, thank you. That's very lenient. 40 minutes for this one. Because we have a physicist here. Okay, so 2 Brian, so they all have a physics, interest and expertise. So the quantum mechanics is the 2 pillar, the central pillar. The 2 pillars, quantum mechanics, relativity of modern physics. So today, I'm going to emphasize what's fundamentally wrong, what went wrong and still wrong with quantum mechanics. Once you understand this, I hope I can make Renee be a physicist, or even better than the current celebrity physicist. Okay, so this is very important. Okay. I hope if you can see my computer screen. Hey, I have a question for Brian. Do you have a computer screen? Do you have a TV screen behind you, or you use some computer technology to make the?
Oh no, he's actually a technologist. You're talking about Brian Bowden. He's a technologist like myself. He's got, like, you see the little letters going behind me.
Right.
Brian
Yeah.
is a producer.
Yes, thanks to Penny, I use something called vcam.ai, VCAM. It's very inexpensive, and I can throw up a video or a photo behind me, and I make these little videos. So when I have guests on my show, sometimes I'll throw up their books and it'll rotate and make it something interesting, or I'll change it based on what we're talking about. This is just an advertise. I'm going to be speaking at a conference in Alabama if I get there through the ice on January 31st. Yeah.
Okay, so I will learn either from Brian or just from Penny. Okay, to make that work. So okay. It may be better than this one. So today I'm gonna still use my older technology. Okay, present. So what's wrong with quantum mechanics? If you understand this one, you will be better in terms of fundamental understanding than any physics is alive. Okay, okay. So now so. Let me see if
quantum mechanics comes out of the struggle to understand the structure of atoms. What physicists in the early 20th century learned is that in the world of the very small, the seemingly impossible is commonplace. Things don't exist until someone looks at them. We're unable to say exactly what path something takes to get from point A to point B. Uncertainty and chance are woven into the very fabric of existence. There are some physicists who refuse to accept that quantum mechanics represents the full story of the subatomic world. The most famous is Albert Einstein.
Quantum mechanics is very worthy of regard, but an inner voice tells me that this is not the true Jacob. The theory yields a lot, but it hardly brings us any closer to the secret of the old one. In any case, I am convinced that he doesn't throw dice.
The world's greatest physicists gather in Brussels in 1927. Einstein challenges Bohr and the idea that uncertainty rules the world. Werner Heisenberg writes in his diary,
"We all stayed at the same hotel. The discussion usually started at breakfast, with Einstein serving us up an imaginary experiment by which he thought he had definitely refuted the uncertainty principle. In the course of the day, we would have discussions on the matter, and as a rule, by supper time, we would have reached the point where Niels Bohr could prove to Einstein that even his latest experiment failed to shake the uncertainty principle. Einstein would look a bit worried, but by next morning he was ready with a new imaginary experiment more complicated than the last."
One of Einstein's challenges is so clever, it has Bohr deeply concerned for the future of quantum mechanics. Physicist Leon Rosenfeld writes,
"Bohr did not see the solution. I shall never forget the sight of the two antagonists leaving the hall. Einstein, a tall, majestic figure, walking quietly with a somewhat ironic smile, and Bohr trotting near him, very excited. During the whole evening, Bohr was extremely unhappy, going from one scientist to another, trying to persuade them that it couldn't be true, that it would be the end of physics if Einstein were right."
I hope this video clip give you some perspective.
Well, let's summarize the whole Einstein-Bohr debate in a nutshell. Einstein claimed that what Bohr was saying was impossible because that would be spooky action at a distance. How could some two things, whether they're, like quarks, for example, be materially, physically separated distances beyond, say, a light year even, and affect each other instantaneously? And with Einstein and Einstein's and Newtonian type physics, that's not possible. But with Bohr's understanding, a higher, more true understanding of physics, not only is it possible, that's what we actually find. So it's demonstratable in experiments that Niels Bohr's was right and Einstein was wrong in this case.
And that wasn't the only time Einstein is wrong. I used to love Einstein until, and what happens is when you become the rock star, which he became, everybody wanted to hang out with him. It didn't matter what he said, it was right. Even though, and this would frustrate other scientists that find different theories and, different results. So, this is why there's a lot of this in physics. And there's apparently I forgot his name. I kind of don't dabble in physics anymore, but there is a gentleman in physics that everybody fears when he comes into a conference or the room because he's so far ahead. But again, you can't have that rock star mentality. You have to go in there, and in science, you can't just stand your ground, lock in, you have to be open to other hypotheses until you know for sure. And that's just my 2 cents on that one.
So Brian said something that I would love to have a little bit more information on. And you said that the other guy's theory was proven and in experiments. So what were some of those experiments?
So you got these various particles, subatomic particles. Among them are quarks, and you can measure their spin, whether they're up or down, for example. And they've done experiments where they're able to take quarks and match them, sync them up in spin, and then you take the two quarks and you separate them, like take one across the world, okay? And then what they found is when they influence the one to flip its spin, the other one, like let's say you had one in the US and the other in Japan, if you flip the one in the US upside down, the one in Japan would simultaneously flip as well, and vice versa. So that means
it
that
picks up a resonance at that can be felt through, with long distance without. Well, you're now even talking about going through other matter.
They're quantum interlocked, and when you look at it, when you think about prayer or sending love to a loved one who's in trouble, and they can feel it, and that's instantaneous. It's not that's not time or space is separating that. It's instantaneous. They're quantumly entangled, and distance doesn't matter. Physical.
We're quarking them with love.
You're quarking them with love.
Resonate.
Going along with Brian saying SolarBee, I've done conferences, and you get the wise guy that comes up and asks the question, seeing how nothing's faster than the speed of light, how can you explain? I said, no, you're wrong. There is something faster than the speed of light. And he's like, oh yeah, what is it? I said, thought. And they don't like that answer. And I said, if you think thought's fast, what thought is so far behind consciousness. Consciousness is the faster than anything in quantum physics in the world. It's beyond instantaneous. The moment that spark happens, it's exampled with what Brian was just saying with the experiment. When they flip them, that's weird. Like that's part of consciousness as well. That means that those quarks are conscious of each other, not just synced to each other. They're aware, and that's mind blowing. I mean, I don't think I don't know. Brian would believe as well would say it, but I don't think Einstein would even consider the whole thought of consciousness and the connection there, because it would go against basically what he was putting out.
He wouldn't be able to explain it mathematically, and it would befuddle him probably.
Stephen,
you.
Well,
okay.
I could.
I want to listen. I will answer you. Yeah.
So consciousness is a very eloquent way of saying coherency. Because we're beings that we're living in a physical space, and we're so conditioned that everything is dimensioned and this and that and whatever. Well, where did it all come from? Our physical existence came from somewhere, and it came from counter space. Counter space has no, you might say, geographical context. It's simultaneously anywhere, any place, anytime. Thought is one thing that is not subject to geographical location. That's why when you love someone at a distance and they feel it and stuff like that. I mean, you're talking about coherently lining up the tuning fork thing. It's a coherence thing. If you look at yourself, the only thing why you exist, gotta excuse the clock in the background here. If you can take what we are condensed light by definition. If we're slowed down matter, and because of the whole idea of vibration causes physicality. And it's a weird paradox. It's not that the vibration causes physicality. It's the slowing down of counter space to the point it becomes what it is. It's almost backward intuitive. If you vibrate yourself to the point of even the Tibetan traditions of rainbow body and stuff, you will just transfigure into coherent light.
Well, Steve, from the Bible, don't they say first there's like thought, and then sound, and then light, and then matter?
Yes, absolutely. And the thing is, when you start moving into real high-end practices of cultivation, it becomes very apparent. And you'll find yourself internally, you disappear. It's crazy. It's hard to explain. But the whole idea of the experiment, they realized they probably got matter. Take like this for something. If I get it in the right resonance, and I get the other one in the right resonance, I think what they're doing is they're raising its coherence to the point they start locking up. I mean, the new computers, I'm working with a guy with Marco Rodin, and they want me to work on a computer. It's literally based on this premise. It's based on frequency, vibration, and geometry. The thing is now they're realizing with this model, and it's kind of a need to know type thing, but talk about lining up with atomic structure, vibration, and coherency. The hard drive is counter space. You're talking about a computer design that has infinite memory capacity because they're tapping into counter space. There's infinite capability with it. It's going to change computers as we know it, and I'm still deviling if I want to get involved with the project, but it's all based on coherence. It's not based on physicality. But the engineering side is developing a device that can, you might say, tap into that space. And the only thing that works for that is a toroidal structure, which is very interesting. But it's a holographic toroidal structure. But yeah, it's pretty interesting stuff. But needless to say, the vibration is the key. I've been reading into some Gnostic stuff, and there's some interesting writings. People can think it's spirituality. Those guys were so ahead of themselves. They almost write and explain things almost like in an allegory. But man, there's such high-end physics that they're expressing. It is mind-boggling. I mean, you think about Christ. He's the Word. Well, Sophia is the counterpart, which is wisdom. If you look into the Gnostic tradition, the Sophia principles, what basically caused matter to come into existence, because it's the intention. I mean, I got an object here. How does this object know to be a knife? There's resonance there. There's energy that's not to do with the vibration or the power behind it. What was the intention for it to be metal?
And Stephen, you
really
were talking
heavy
about
stuff.
You're talking about the agnostic, and you got to go back further and further and further. As as you go into like the Knights Templar, they started off as something, and then they got enlightened by people of old and ancient information, and they realized, oh, that stuff that we were told to do is just junk. One of the things that was great about Tesla, he said, if you understand the secrets of 369, you know the universe. And I've said this from the beginning. throughout all of this stuff, it's always going to be, this is the Rosetta Stone: sound, frequency, vibration, resonance. That is the key to everything.
Mm-hmm.
And when I've done a couple of shows, and when I talked to the producer, I said, I'm going to bring in a craft on, and he laughed at me. and I brought in a craft using sound, frequency, vibration, resonance. And we had, Ben Hansen there. He's like trying to figure this out. Mark D'Antonio, Mr. I know it all, pain in the ass he is. And he couldn't figure it out. And he was dumbfounded. And then I looked to the producer. He goes, holy crap, you did this. And I said, yeah, I told you I'm going to do this. So the problem is we have people, and Brian saying, this, that do not believe what we are showing and proving and saying to people, because anything that goes against the grain, especially if you're a super soldier or you've had a past life or whatever, you're a freak. So that the controllers and the narrative doesn't want this out there.
Once we talk about psychic abilities, for example, that's what I would call a fourth density topic, as opposed to this third density matrix reality, quote unquote, that people assume, dreams are just dreams. There's no such thing as psychic abilities. You can't tell when a loved one passes away across the planet, which I know people who they've felt it. My ex-partner, when one of our dogs passed away, and we were on the other side of the country, she woke up from sleep knowing that something terrible had happened to one of her dogs, and then got a phone call saying something terrible had happened to one of her dogs. And so and of course that is very well documented, thousands and thousands of cases, internet's full of them. I spent many years reading those types of cases.
Okay, I want to claim my time back. Okay.
Yes.
So
Do it.
I'm gonna start it with June's question. Say, what kind of evidence show Niels Bohr's theory is correct? So Brian mentioned about one is the called quantum spin. So I'm gonna explain what's wrong with their explanation and what is the correct one. So so-called quantum spin say, hey, we said that every particle is quantum particles, right? So why we said, hey, quantum particle has a property called spin. So that's the problem. The so-called quantum particle defined as either single charged particle, like a negative charged particle, electron, or positive charged particle, like a positron, proton. So either one of them are single charge, called mono-charged point particle. Problem is they do not have an internal direction. They don't have a direction because any particles is spherical, right? Rotate anything, they can. So that's not what physics, what the world really shows. The world shows everything stable. It's not like a free rotation. So what happens? Quantum mechanics find out, okay, we are patching our holes in our theory. How to patching? They found that every single particle actually has an internal direction. So when we say quantum spin, is just to say, hey, we found that our current explanation does not right. So we have to say, hey, the particle has another property. So spin is not a physical spin. It's define the internal direction. Material internal, either point up, that's from South Pole to North Pole, point upward, or downward. So that's spin down, spin up, spin down, means from south to north, downward. So what it really comes, every single particle is not a monocharged particle, it's not a neutral particle, it's a magnetic particle, and the magnetic particle has its natural axis. That's called gauge theory. All the gauge theory is trying to determine internal direction. Where comes the internal direction? Not assigned is every particle is a magnetic particle. Okay, I wanted to make this one for sure. I hope I answered your question, right? So that explanation is not true. And now
Can I chime in? So when you're talking about that, and you said it was a sphere, and so that makes a difference. And then, even with a magnet, when you have a solid piece like that, and it's magnetic, one is negative on the one side, positive on the other, and a little, as you get toward the middle, it's more neutral.
Exactly.
So if you wanted to know what its charge is like on a sphere, don't we have the Van Allen belts to look at to see how that goes? Because the Earth is round, and we've got the Van Allen belts, which are magnetic. And because that magnetic thing that holds everything together, that makes it solid, moves to the outside as the ooons come together, the magnetic charge keeps moving outward to hold everything together. Well, we have the Van Allen belts that we found on the Earth. If we look at those patterns, wouldn't that mimic the same pattern as a sphere of a magnet like you have in your hand?
Exactly. Every single planet, every single particles, down to the minimum of the smallest particle, that what we call the universal all magnetic particles. Of course, they have to align with the magnetic sphere. Yes, you're right. So, okay, if I answer this one, let me continue, okay?
Okay.
Because I wanted this title, What's Wrong? When people look at it, they do get what's wrong. So why this year is so important? This is called the centennial year, called 100 years of quantum mechanics. Not started by original model. Nearest model forms like over 100 years. So it started called a quantum. I would call it. This is called electron cloud model. Electron cloud with a wave function described. So that's all started. This called Schrödinger equation. Schrödinger. Okay. So I'm gonna move fast, and let me give you a little history. How did we get here? First of all, if you look at the top one, J.J. Thomson, he's the one made the fundamental mistake. Okay. He said, hey, I discovered electron. I start a new world, subatomic particle. And he defined the electron as a negative charged particle. If I'm correct, several hosts here attending my last say, we're talking about a monocharged particle cannot exist. Do you still remember that one? Okay. Okay. So Brian Bolden, were you there last time? Oh, okay.
Yes, I was there.
You were there. Okay. So I know Brian 10 he was not there. But at least I convinced 5 of the 6 guests here. Okay. So monocharged particle cannot exist. So that's where J.J. Thomson. So what happens? J.J. Thomson discovered electron, and he further developed this atomic model. He said, okay, nucleus must be positive charge. So that's why positive charge and the negative charge electron on top of called the plum pudding. Basically, that's what the model. He said, okay, they're going to balance. So that's where he justified electron has to be negative, so that atom is nucleus is positive. Did you see his nucleus occupy entire atom? That's where another experimental is. So he originated from the New Zealand, but he went visit all those best scientists in Great Britain. Okay, so that's why. And he in the laboratory he said, hey, he did this called a golden foil experiment. I believe you guys heard this one, the golden foil experiment. He basically used this experiment to say, hey, nucleus is not occupy entire atom. Nucleus is actually so small, shrinking small in the center. So how small it is? If we're assuming a nucleus is this size, like a baseball size, the diameter of this one will be 3 miles away. So that's how small. That's how small he discovered. So what happens? He said, okay, so he still has the boundary as atom boundary, but the nucleus is just tiny. But how to place our electron? So that's where he puzzled. He said, hey, if I say shrink the nucleus is so small and put the electron somewhere, because why we need the electron? Because we know atomic atom as a neutral entity if you measure outside. So we have to keep them neutral. So he put that. But the problem is, how can you balance this one? He said, okay, we can let them rotate, just like a solar planet. Rotate the solar center, right? The problem is violating the electrodynamics fundamental principle. Say anything rotating, any charged particle rotating, you're gonna radiate. The radiate is so-called create light, means losing energy. If you're losing energy, sooner or later you're gonna impact of the center. I hope that makes sense. I'm gonna target you. Okay, does that make sense to you?
Well, it does in a way, because what you're saying is the rotating of the electrons and electrons, negative positive charge, doesn't make sense doing it that way because it would put off light and lose energy. So
that's exactly.
But so the magnetism that it puts off, because when you're talking about magnetism, it's not going out; it's holding together.
It just combine themselves. Stay.
Yeah,
here. This is a real thing. Yeah.
But then when you have that solid sphere magnetic, you still can measure that you have a south pole or north pole.
Exactly.
You have the magnetic part of it and what's holding it together. And that's why I was saying, because that magnetic charge is always measured at the outside. You don't go inside to measure it. It's always measured at the outside. It's always pushed to the outside.
Yes.
That is probably, I'm thinking that's what makes things hold together.
Yes.
But the reason that I referred to the Van Allen belts is because I think the same thing happens with our Earth, but the Van Allen belts are the evidence of it. Does that make sense?
Yes, I make sense. That evidence is so big, huge. Yeah.
Yes.
Normally we're talking about evidence is so much smaller. Okay. Wow.
Because we can understand and measure that, where when we go down itsy bitsy tiny, we can't get to it because we can't see it, smell it, taste it. So it's really hard to go that way. But when we take your theory, and because it builds on itself, you can look at the bigger structures and break them down to the smaller structures as you're breaking the magnets down to smaller structures. So you can do that infinitum or whatever it is.
Infinitesimal, yeah.
Yeah, and so if you can do it that way, then that explains your theory. Does that make sense?
Perfect sense. Too much sense to me. I hope it makes sense to everybody else. Okay. So let me continue. So, and then what happens? The problem is here. He said that rotation, and the Joanne said it must radiate losing energy. So what happens? So this model cannot survive based on electrodynamic law. And now, so he tried to abandon this one, and now he's a laboratory assistant, or he hired an intern or something. Okay, work for him. That's a news board. Said, hey, I can fix it. You know what? How he fixed it? He said, hey, everything just like you said, okay? Like you said, solar planet model.
Mm-hmm.
However, they said if you do rotating, any uniform rotation, that's actually acceleration in radial direction. It should generate light. That's what his stubbornness. No, he insists at a certain orbit. He said this only radiate light if you randomly orbiting. He said at a certain called equilibrium orbit, fixed orbit. It does not radiate light. It's completely nonsense, okay? But it does convince people. If you can fix the orbit at a certain distance, he numerically matched that one, using his equation, okay? Match it. And then if you're assuming it's not radiate, what happens? This is that's his model, right? He said then you can match called hydrogen atom spectrum. Whenever you excited a hydrogen atom, you look at a hydrogen atom, it always emits light. The hydrogen atom emit light. One atom can emit a different spectrum. So that's a different spectrum emitted by one atom, okay? One hydrogen atom. He said, if we're assuming certain orbit does not radiate light, that means that it's a stable orbit. We can reproduce this hydrogen atom emission spectrum. And he did successfully by reverse engineer matching that one, okay? Experimental fitting, matching that one. Because of this success, people accept his theory. Okay, maybe he's right.
When Niels Bohr arrives in Manchester, Rutherford is ready to abandon his model of the atom. But Bohr sees a way to save it.
What he proposed was that you would not allow the electrons to move in any orbit about the nucleus, as you could according to classical theory, but only to occupy certain very well-defined orbits about the nucleus. There would be an orbit here, an orbit here, an orbit here, but there would not exist orbits between these.
There's nothing in between. In between exists nothing. And that's very non-Newtonian. If you take the Earth and you could move the Earth a little bit closer to the Sun, no problem. We'd have a different orbit, would be stable, would have a different time to go around the Sun, no problem. That you cannot do with an electron around a nucleus. You cannot just change the orbit by a little bit. You have to change it by, so to speak, a lot.
Bohr's idea that electrons can have only certain orbits draws inspiration from other new theories that suggest heat and light come in units that can't be divided, called quanta. But applying this quantum idea to matter is practically sacrilegious. In fact, most physicists disapprove of Bohr's theory. Whenever they meet, they scoff at the idea that an electron can be in some places but not others, that matter comes in some sizes but not others.
If it's not nonsense, at least it doesn't make sense.
This is just a cheap excuse for not knowing what's going on.
The assumptions are too bold, too fantastic. They can't be right.
In time, two camps emerge. A group around Bohr, which believes in his so-called quantum theory of matter, and those who cling to the classical view. No less than the true picture of nature is at stake.
Okay, I think this movie summarized my explanation well. And then let's say what among all the physicists, the view, based on the Niels Bohr himself, he said, if quantum mechanics has not profoundly shocked you, and you haven't understood it yet. So he thinks it's so shocking, okay? If you do not feel shocked, you do not even understand. That's himself. And what did the other people say? Albert Einstein said, God does not play dice with the universe, right? So we see that one. And now you look at the fairly modern people we interacted, Richard Feynman. he used to be on NASA's investigation board. Okay, he mentioned anyone who claims to understand the quantum theory is either lying or crazy. He won Nobel Prize on his quantum theory. There's a Feynman diagram explaining quantum theory. And he, of course, he said this one after he won, he already put their Nobel Prize in safe place now, right? And he said, okay, anybody say that one, you're either lying or crazy. So that means nobody understands. It makes no human sense. You know what happens, right? And he considered the smartest people, the best known quantum mechanics himself. Nobody else know how to be better than.
And so unfortunately, Dr. Yu, we have run out of time.
So can I say one thing?
We're going to extend our segments now for an hour and a half to give everybody plenty of time. And we are going to revisit this. Can you tell people where people can find you, Dr. Yu?
Oh, sure. You can find me from my Twitter handle. So at real Dr. Yu. So real and DRYU. So at real Dr. So you can find all my information from that one. If you have any questions directly, just text to Penny. And she's the most responsible person I know. She will text, let me know. I will answer that one to you right away.
Thank you. And Dr. Brian, not Dr. Brian, but Brian Singh. Brian Singh, where can people find you?
Yeah. In addition to being here for my Thursday morning segments, mostly right now, contact me directly on Facebook if you'd like. And make sure to put in both my name here and my nickname, SolarBee, and that'll help distinguish me from all the other Brian Sangs out there.
Excellent. Well, you're a very distinguished individual, that's for sure. And Dr. Brian Bolden. Brian.
That's not the first time I've been called that by people. A lot of people do think I'm a doctor or a physician. I can be found Wednesday nights, 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. Eastern, doing my show Third Eye Live. I am usually in Facebook jail. I'm on Twitter, so just look for me. And I do Awake Nation on Thursdays, 9:30 to 10. And Penny and Joan kidnapped me and are holding me hostage here at
there is no ransom.
11. So now I'm doing that too. So, but
no
it's been
ransom
a
to
pleasure
be
being with
paid.
everyone.
Thank you so much, Brian. We appreciate you. Steven Sanchez, where can people find you?
Oh, same place, same time. My email address, it's the number 1 and the one word goldentiger@gmail.com.
Excellent. Joan Renee, where can people find you?
Well, you can find me here on Agent X11. You can also find me on Trauma Triage on Wednesdays, the David Zublik channel, the Awake Nation on Tuesdays and Thursdays. And you can also find me on X, Joan Renee 27. And please do subscribe. I do post these shows there.
Excellent. And you can find me on Agent X11, also on the Awake Nation News, Monday through Friday. That's 7 to 8 a.m. Eastern Time. And then you can also find me on the Awake Nation, and that is 8 to 10. And that, again, is Eastern on the David Zubik channel on Rumble, and also on the Agent X11 channel on Rumble. And I want to thank you all for being with us. I am going to also announce that Joan Renee has a new show, and it is Life with Joan. And she's going to be talking about things that she's talking about, anything from aliens to illegal aliens entering our country, and kitchen gadgets as well. So I'm going to play that at the end of this segment. We are out of time, so we are out of here. Shepherd out.
SolarBee out.
Renee out.
Steven out.
Dr. Yu out.
Odin out.
We're all out. Here we go.
Live with Joan. Live with Joan. Live with Joan. Live with Joan and Jesus, it's supernatural with UFOs. You will always walk away knowing something you did not know. Her tales will unconfuse you because Jesus is the key. Joan shines her little light for the whole world to see. Joan is Mrs. Kitchen Gadget, which you'll get to see. She will demonstrate what the food she makes and green aliens may beam into her kitchen just for tea. You may reconsider what you think you know when UFOs start to spin and glow over the town square's Christmas tree. While you snooze, Joe reports the news on Awake Nation TV. Oh, oh, Joe reports the news while you snooze. Oh, oh, Joe reports the news while you snooze on Awake Nation TV. Life with Joan is always unexpected. What she knows keeps you on your toes, cause everyone's connected. Joan shakes up the neighbors with the truth, you see. She shakes and bakes and she stops earthquakes and helps everyone in need. She gives advice because she's nice, and she co-hosts the Trauma Tree HD. Life with Joan and Jesus, it's supernatural with UFOs. You will always walk away knowing something you did not know. Oh, 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 oh. Her tales will unconfuse you because Jesus is the key. Joan shines her little light for the whole world to see. Joan shines a little light for the whole world to see. She shines a little light for the world to see. Joan shines a little light for the world to see. Life with Joan. Life with Joan. Life with Joan. Life with Joan.
Goodbye for today from Agent X11, Hollywood Dark Journalist. We post new episodes daily. Check out our true crime episodes Wednesdays and Fridays. Don't forget to watch our main show, David Zubik's Awake Nation, on the David Zubik channel on Rumble, live Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. Eastern.